to talk to us about carbon accounting and sustainability within business and the modules that they use to do that.
Thank you. So we are going to talk about a little bit of regulation that brings us to where we are today. Then I will present you my company CO2 features and a quick demo in order to illustrate what has been done. And in the end, we will discuss the roadmap and how we could bring this module to another step. So in terms of regulation, you should know that for the companies that are larger than 250 employees, starting in 2025, meaning in couples of months, your clients, or even you potentially, will have to comply with the CSRD regulation in Europe. There are other regulations in the world, of course. The small companies are also impacted because when the big corporations are looking at their value chain, or their supply chain, they most of the time require these small clients to provide such calculation in terms of emission, these emissions that have to be reported. But the problem is that there is not a lot being available in the tools on the market today that are really integrated within a system. So you can purchase an outside system and then you need more or less to export, import data, and you spend your time in Excel. Here, what we tried to do with my company CO2 is to integrate everything within Odoo. This is how you report your carbon emissions, meaning first you look at your first scope, then all the energy in the scope 2 for the upstream and the downstream activities regarding transportation, employee commuting, all of your assets, and so on and so forth, and all the transportation side. What you realize is that actually there is an app for all of these problems that is available in Odoo, and the companies are already managing this in Odoo. So what has been done, basically, is to integrate all of this within the single apps in Odoo. That gives you the ability to manage your climate strategy directly and seamlessly within all of these single applications. It is real time, and you can plan your decarbonization. Most of the people are spending time just to try to compute their emissions, whereas, of course, it's important to compute, but we don't really care about computing. What we care is reducing the emissions. And this is what the companies will be able to focus on with my company CO2. This is purely based on accounting. So what we did is to manage the carbon accounting computation as the accountants are managing our money. So to summarize, you have an accounting line with the debit and the credit for the currencies. Here it's the same, but we have simply, so to say, and Julien may laugh a little bit because it's a bit tough, but we have simply added the debit and the credit in terms of carbon. So it's totally integrated within the accounting part. It gives us a lot of possibilities in terms of reporting. It works out of the box for asset management, and you can imagine what we can do also in terms of budgeting, in terms of analytical accounting, and so on and so forth. All of this analysis is also coming, not say out of the box, but in terms of dashboarding, we have integrated MIS reports in order to be able to report on top of the carbon also. So there's a lot we can do in terms of analysis, and we are capable of generating the standard reporting that is required by the authorities. We like to talk about co-opetition and not competition, in a sense that the idea is to bring this module and to make it available to as much as possible companies in the world. So it's open source. we are trying to pushing an open data logic also in terms of the emission factors. This is the way you are computing your emission. You need some emission factors. And we are trying now to build a community that has started with the creation of an association which is called MCO2. It is intended to host this source code that has been initially implemented by OpenNet and to develop it and to work with and to develop the community. So part of so this association MCO2 has been created recently. Inoya in the room is part of the association. We also have another partner which is called Manatech. Don't know if they are around today. I've not seen them. But this is what we are trying to do. So the more partners we will have on board, the easier it will be to deploy this around the world for our clients. And the biggest part of the features, it may not look like a feature, the previous one, but for us it's a real feature, even if it doesn't sound like. In terms of integration, so accounting, as you understood, purchases, all the HR commuting, which is extra accounting, is also embedded. And also on the sales, the expenses, and some of those modules. Before jumping to the demo of the sustainability module, you need to understand one thing. To compute emissions, you have some activity data. So here, for instance, if you are consuming 10 kilowatt hours of electricity, you need to know what is the emission factor. This is usually provided either by the government or by universities or by some other companies. So here, if you say that your carbon footprint is 0.06 kilograms of carbon equivalent per kilowatt hour, if you consume 10 kilowatt hour, then your emission is worth 0.6 kilograms, right? That's the only thing you need to know to understand the entire module. Everything is based on top of this. So let me jump into the demo. So this is a sustainability module. I have forgotten to mention that we have also integrated the demo data. So as soon as you install it with the usual Azure interior and the tables and the chairs, so we have added some emission factors on top of it so that as soon as you install it, you can see what is happening. So this is the global carbon footprint of your company with some of the tables and the chairs I was talking about. And the first thing, as I mentioned previously, is to talk about is regarding the emission factors. I will jump between different tabs, but everything is available in the community version, right? Despite you will see some enterprise screen, everything is available on the community part. So this is a database where there are some emission factors that have been loaded. So here you see we have 6,000 emission factors from a French database, but there are some other databases that have been integrated. So you can navigate through these emission factors with the hierarchical view in order to find, for instance, an electricity factor that you would like to use. Let's say an average one in France, 2021. And here is the screen where you can see the details of an emission factor and the way it is broken down, right? So this is basic emission factor. Then I want to show you another part. So this is reference data for the emission factor about the decarbonization module. So basically, as I said, computing is one thing, but what we want is to reduce. So here in this module, we give the ability to the clients to define their climate strategy and to see the way they are going to reduce their emissions. So for instance, at OpenNet, we have a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term scenario. In the short-term one, for instance, we have several plans. We have a plan to reduce our energy consumption. We have a plan to offer some mobility advantages to our employees in order to have some ways to commute that are less emitting CO2. And we have a training sensibilization plan, so to say. And within each of these plans, you can define what are the actions that are associated to it. So here, for instance, we are saying that we want to reduce the temperature within our offices. So that's an easy one and one that everyone knows. And then you can define what you want and define what your plan to reduce your emissions look like. One of the items in the roadmap would be starting from this to generate a budget, for instance, a carbon budget. We have financial budgets. Here, it would be interesting to say, okay, what am I expecting in terms of reduction? But today, it's only a matter of describing what is your climate strategy. Let me move into the carbon footprint, as I was saying. So as soon as you open the sustainability module, you see what are your emissions here. So you can group them, you can filter them, you can sort them the way you want. You can filter by only the monetary, for instance. So there's a lot you can do here. And you can also report using the carbon footprint module. This is standard reporting, so you can slice and dice the data the way you want, filter, group, whatever you want. Now, let's move on to a small scenario. And let's say that we have received an invoice. Let me take this one. So this is an invoice of power from Enercop, a French electricity supplier. And this month, we did consume 239 kilowatt hours. So how do we create this type of invoice? And what is the impact in Odoo? So if I look at the supplier invoices, let me take the one from the previous month. So usual, I duplicate this one, starting from there. It is an invoice from the 10th of November. Okay. And this time I'm paying 85.19. And we are consuming, I was saying, 239. I'm saving, and the data is in the box. It's as simple as this. Meaning your accountant doesn't have to know anything about emission factor, about carbon emission or whatever. This is as simple as this, and the carbon is automatically computed and generated. You have the ability also to check the way this has been computed. So here, I'm going back to the main screen of the sustainability carbon footprint, if you remember. And you have all the explanation of the way this 12.45 has been computed. It is being split by several types of emission factor, transportation, combustion, and upstream. And you have all the details, basically. I don't know if you did notice, but we have an interesting information on the invoice. They have given us the exact carbon footprint of the company and the electricity that they are producing. So instead of having a generic emission factor, we will be able to get the exact one from these guys. So I have created here the emission factor just before in order to be faster during the demo, but they are saying it's 0.055 for the upstream part, and for the distribution, this is their emission factor, as you can see here, 15.547, okay? So now, what we're gonna say is we're gonna take the product, the electricity product, and instead of saying this is the generic emission factor from France, I will mention that it is the one from Enercop. I take my invoice. I can even do that, pick these two ones, recompute the carbon. You can imagine you can have thousands of invoices. You just recompute, and your carbon footprint is up to date. It's as simple as this. And if you look into the details, you realize that everything has been recomputed. Here we are down to 8 kilograms. And now the one being used is the ENERCOP one. Right? Let's have a look at the employee part, the employee module. So here, when you go to the sustainability parameters, you have the ability to define the way it's going to be computed. First, you define all the emission factors that your employees will be able to set in their HR module. You need to define what is the account, because we are talking about extra accounting carbon computation, in a sense that you are not spending money for the employees that are coming to the office. But as everything is related to accounting, we need to generate these accounting entries. So you have the ability to define a specific account. It will be a €0 entry, of course, but it's only a matter of charging it in a carbon way, so to say. So you define the account where you want these to appear. You define your journal where you want it to appear. And then every single month, at the beginning of the month, it will compute the entire impact of your commuting, of your employees who are commuting to the office. So for instance, I am traveling by train, and every week it is worth 440 kilometers for me, right? So behind this emission factor, there is a specific computation. It is worth 0.007 per kilometer. And what the system is doing is that every month it is generating search entry in the accounting part. And you have all the details, employee by employee, which is showing, where am I? Here for me. So it's worth 1,760 kilometers for the entire month. And my commuting is generating 12 kilograms of carbon per month, at least for this month. So this is automatic, and it is being generated. For the ones who wouldn't have yet replied to the survey, there would be an average that has been computed over the other guys who have already defined the way they are commuting. What is very important from a functional point of view is that you don't have someone within the company who is managing the emissions. It means that everyone within the company, from the procurement manager, from the HR officer, everyone will be involved in the climate strategy, trying to reduce on a day-to-day basis, and not simply the day when you decide that you have a consultant coming to compute your emissions. Every time there is a new employee, the HR officer will ask, okay, how are you commuting to the office? If they know that they are taking a day off because the guys are moving, for instance, from one place to another, okay, they will ask actually basically where are you now and how are you going to commute. So this is not only the ESG officer, the one responsible for the climate strategy within the company, but this is basically the entire company and the entire departments who will be involved on a daily basis. Just want to show you another one, which is with regards to the asset and the way it is embedded within the accounting module. So here we did purchase a MacBook Pro, and this is of course an asset. It's not a basic spending, and actually Apple is saying that it's worth 271 kilograms of carbon. So here you can say that you don't want to use any emission factor. You are locking this carbon emission to the one the manufacturer is providing you, because you know that. So there is no need to have an emission factor. And then this is an asset. So this is the regular asset management. This is the enterprise, but it also works on the community part. And we are starting with this debt, so to say, and the amortization plan will generate not only the financial part, but also the carbon part, reducing the value of the asset from a carbon perspective and increasing the P&L part every single year. So that's the way it has been integrated when I was saying it's very tight with the accounting module. And that brings me to the reporting. So for instance, you can look at your P&L reports with the currencies on the left, and this is the carbon part. So this is a small development, that has been made on top of the MIS report module. And you have the ability, when you define your MIS reports, to pick the carbon values and to put them in front of your currencies. Here we are in Swiss francs, but it could be anything else. And thus you look at your P&L, not only from a financial perspective, but also for a carbon perspective. This is one of the reporting that is available. I also explain you that you are able to use the analysis module within the sustainability app here. And there's another one, which is a dashboard that has been created. Dashboard is also part of the community edition. And here we have defined a dashboard in order to look at our emissions. So here for 2023, what is this by employee, by turnover figure, what are the global emissions for our company. You have a top 10 by supplier, by emission factor, by account, by invoice, and so on and so forth, with all the features that you already know about the dashboards, where you can slice and dice the data, you can drill, you can do a lot with such a feature. So this has been integrated within the spreadsheets. Let me move on to the end to have a bit of time in order to listen to your questions. So in terms of roadmap, we want to extend the community I was talking about and be able to comply with the OCA standards. At the moment, it has been developed by OpenNet in a certain way, and we want to move this into another level by complying to the OCA standards. The idea is also to extend the integration in order maybe next year to have the OCA event managed by My Event CO2, for instance, where we would be able to compute the carbon footprint of the OCA days. We are also in the process of getting My Company CO2 certified by the French authorities, which should give us a good credibility, so to say, versus the other tools that are available in the market. And of course, we are open to listen to whatever could be needed to be added to the tool. As any of us, we need contributors, of course, so in case you want to contribute, you are very welcome to do so, but we also need clients in order to finance the developments. At the moment, it's only a project that has been financed on top of OpenNet R&D project, but we need now, with this new association, to see the way it's going to be developed in the future. And there are a lot of partners here in this room, so if you want to deploy this for some of your clients, of course, that will be very interesting to get feedback on what is working, what is needed, if there are some bugs or whatever. So as a recap, most of our clients will need this kind of tools in order to comply with the regulation. We need to find more partners and more clients to use the tool and contribute as much as we can. There is a website where you can find all the links with regard. So first you have the link to download the tool. So that brings you to the GitHub part, because it's fully open source. And at the bottom you have the links to follow on LinkedIn, for instance. I think I'm done. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Maxi?
Have you already integrated this to customers who doesn't use Odoo yet. So in complement of their own ERP, because it's quite easy, I guess, to extend the functionalities with this. But for customers that already use another kind of system, how do you deal with this?
So the answer is no at the moment. We are focusing on people who are using Odoo because where we think the value is when you have all your activity data within your ERP, and this is where we get a value. And with the association, MCO2 association, our plan would be to federate the other tools, the other ERPs, saying we are not competing. Someone from SAP will not come to Odoo because of the carbon module and vice versa. So we are more thinking about how to collaborate all together to define maybe a new standard, to define such a thing, rather than trying to define some interfaces in order to be connected to some other tools. But we are thinking at it because otherwise we are only Odoo focused and it's not that easy.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks for your presentation. I have two questions. You were talking about French authorities. Are you talking about the ABC, the Association Bilan Carbone, in English would be Carbon Footprint Association, which own the license of the carbon footprint methodology. So are you talking about this one? And second question, in the carbon footprint methodology, there is also a step which is scenarios in the future if the prices of the energy evolve. Do you plan to include these scenarios in the add-on later?
So the question was around, I think we didn't hear about it. It's okay? Okay. So yes, the plan is to get it certified by the ABC association. I did the license from a personal perspective in order to be able to try to build something that looks like what the environmental consultants need, what the accountant will need. So this is the plan for beginning of 2025. And in terms of risk mitigation, at the moment there is nothing available within the tool. But yes, the plan would be to be able to run some simulation and say, okay, if it was to increase by such amount, then what would be the impact on the company? But it's not available yet.
Thank you, Maxime. That's all the time we have questions for, but if anyone else has any more questions, I'm sure